Welcome to the AlphaWarrior Show. We're excited to share diverse perspectives and expert insights with you. Please note that the views and information expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the AlphaWarrior Show, its management, or our partners. Each of our affiliates and sponsors and partnerships is a separate entity, and their opinions are their own. Today's content is provided for information and educational purposes and should not be taken as specific advice, whether it be financial, medical, or legal. While we strive to present accurate and useful information, we cannot guarantee its completeness or relevance to your specific situation. We provide all information as is and encourage you to consult with a professional advisor to address your specific individual needs. Your use of any information from this broadcast is entirely at your own risk. By listening further, you agree to identify and protect the AlphaWarrior Show and its associates from any claims or damages arising from your use of this broadcast content. Changes to this disclaimer may be made at any time and will be done effectively immediately upon posting or broadcasting. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you find the episode both informative and thought-provoking. Listener discretion is advised.
Generation of warfare, psychological warfare. In modern conflict, the mind is a potent weapon. Discover General Michael T. Flynn's groundbreaking guide, The Citizen's Guide to Fifth Generation Warfare. Unlock tactics, strategies, and the mindset to navigate this cognitive battlefield that we all find ourselves in. Equip yourself against manipulation and emerge unscathed. Unleash your potential. Order now.
Well, I just realized something while I was looking at the title. I'm like, that didn't save correctly. So I'll be making that adjustment right now when we break to these ads. But you guys, it is Operation Gladio. I believe it is part 25, if I'm not mistaken, if not 26. And we are going to be talking about Operation Gladio in Africa today with the amazing Colonel Towner. We've had some fire shows. So I know you guys are ready. I know Operation Gladio is intensive. I know you guys got your pen. I know you got your paper. And I know you guys were probably listening to Colonel earlier today, so you're all stoked and you're all fired up just like I am. And I'll tell you guys why I'm fired up. It has something to do with this bad boy right here. I'm feeling kind of good and spicy tonight. So let's get to my amazing sponsors. Hopefully I can fix this title while we're doing that. And when I see you on the other end of this, we are live, and I'm with the Colonel. So see you guys in just a minute.
Are you worried about the effects that higher inflation rates will have on your investments? Are you trying to secure your retirement savings against losses, but you notice that inflation is a hot topic these days? But how dangerous are low inflation rates on your retirement savings? An inflation rate of 2% may not seem like much, but it means that prices will just about quintuple over the lifetime of the average American. And 4% average inflation rate means that something that costs $1 when they're born will cost $23 when they die. That demonstrates the danger of even low inflation rates. So when it comes to gold and inflation rates, many investors want to know whether inflation rates have an effect on gold prices. What history indicates is that over the long term, increased inflation should lead to correspondingly higher gold prices. From September 1971 to August 2020, gold grew 7.5 times as much as inflation. Not only can an investment in physical gold help protect your assets against the damage done by inflation, it can also help grow the value of your retirement portfolio over the long term. If you're looking to protect your retirement assets, why wait until stock markets crash and gold begins to rise in price?
You ask and we listen. We're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen-size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
Fixed the title, downloaded an image, uploaded it to the studio. Didn't skip a beat. This one-man show's got it going. Let me tell you guys, right? You know, I don't care if ain't nobody else gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. Let me bring on the Colonel, who everybody wants to hear from tonight. Man, it was like boom, bam, boom, 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 like rocking, Colonel. It was rocking right now.
So, hello.
Colonel's like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I can't even follow that act.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
For those that don't know, the Colonel is now officially a grandma.
Yes.
To a beautiful, healthy baby boy.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that that was just a week ago. And luckily, we had already switched out times to put me on Tuesday and your other guest on Wednesday, because as it turns out, she went into labor on Wednesday. So I wouldn't have been here anyway.
Divine intervention.
That's right. God looking out for us. Absolutely.
So. And you know what? It did really work out perfect. You know, Ghost came clutch with a great show. I had to tell him.
Watch the show. It was an excellent show.
So you saw me tell him, I'm falling asleep, Gordon. Like my brain is tired. I truly believe that man could have went on for another 7 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
he's truly amazing.
He is. And now you're amazing. And we're talking Operation Gladio, Africa.
Yeah.
And
I noticed that you brought Gladio up. High five with him. Exactly. Because, and that's what's fascinating for me to talk to him about, is all of the research that he does jives directly with Operation Gladio. And unlike many other people that does research, he recognizes the cohesive integration. And, you know, he will text me, he will interact. He'll like, you know, what's your opinion of this? I text him and say, hey, what's your opinion of that? And that to me is awesome, because so many people carve out some little aspect of research and say, you know, I own this. And they won't listen to anybody else say it's much bigger than that. And that gets very, very frustrating.
Well, I'll tell you what. I gave everybody a little teaser of one of the reasons. You guys are going to find out what makes Alpha happy, like, so easy. So this hat, okay, is my favorite hat. Well, not this one specifically, but one identical to this that I've had for quite a few years. And because it's my favorite hat, you know, I wear it no matter what. So the thing is just beat up. So I was like, you know, it's time to get a new one. This was probably like 2 years ago. I couldn't find it anywhere. So a few days ago, I was on the devil's Amazon looking for something, and I came across this hat, and I was just like, no. So I ordered one. Should have ordered two, just in case. So this is why I'm pumped up. Like, my favorite hat, all brand new again. Like, I'm pumped up right now, Colonel. I don't care. Everybody, you know what? The people in the audience, you can judge me. This has Alpha like happy as hell. Yes, and it came in the mail today. So first, they sent it in a soft packaging. I was like, come on, you guys. So I was already like kind of paranoid. I thought when I was opening, it was going to be all smashed. The bill is going to be like tweaked. So I was just like, no. But I opened it, and it's just perfect condition. So I was just like,
cool.
So I'm happy. But now we can get to business.
Okay. So
I'll probably touch it a couple times. Just saying. Just
get that bill going right. Yeah, it needs a little work, but
there we go. All right.
So I want to start off the show. Many of the people that's follows me a lot will have heard this rant, but I have to do it to set the stage for what we're going to talk about tonight. I recently and I've told the audience, we were originally pivoting after we did the last geographical region to Asia, but I, as Cousin It says, squirrel, and I got sidetracked into Africa. It's not that we weren't going to do Africa, but we were going to do Asia first. But I sat in horror watching an interview with Eric Prince talk about the continent of Africa. And I'm going to paraphrase, but we all know who Eric Prince is. We know that he is basically a Gladio operator on behalf of the United States and is a contractor for both the US government and the CIA, and has done basically paramilitary activity all over the world. Which is in effect what Operation Gladio is. So this is the guy, this is a chaos agent. He goes in and injects chaos into areas and in order to achieve particular mission objectives. And he's paid quite handsomely for doing that. And he was talking about the continent of Africa, saying that the Black leaders in Africa cannot manage or lead, and therefore need to move over and allow the white people to come in and basically do it for them. And I am paraphrasing it, but that's basically what he said. And after having gone through the Congo, which we did a show on, where the white guys came in and murdered the Black guy that was actually trying to make a difference and educate his population and set up healthcare after being enslaved for 150 years. And the one guy that could have done it, they murder. They didn't just murder him, they boiled him in acid. And nothing says, hey, you're a bad leader, so we're going to kill you and boil you in acid, and basically destroy your entire country and install a CIA stooge dictator in your place, as opposed to the duly elected, democratically elected guy that could have changed everything for the Congo. So if there was a single country in Africa that we could use as a model for whether or not Black leaders could actually lead their country without the CIA influence, I would love to be able to compare, to be able to decide whether or not Eric Prince's statement was actually factual. But you know what? I can't find a single country because the CIA has couped every single country, or at least interfered in it, in the entire continent of Africa. So if you'll put up that first slide, I want people to understand the gravity of this. So if you look around the world, I want you to grasp these numbers. 492 attempted or successful coups carried out in the world since 1950, which is basically Operation Gladio, because 48 is when the CIA stood up. Africa has seen 220 of them. Now there's 7 continents, and over half of the coups are on the continent of Africa. Let that sink in. And it doesn't have to be successful in order to destroy the country, because in several of these coups, there was a 15-year civil war that followed it. By success, this Powell and Tyne research project that was done out of the University of Central Florida, in order for it to be a successful coup, they had criteria. So it doesn't mean that the other ones weren't devastating. 109 of them were successful. So those are just, and hold on just a second. Can you put that back up for just a second? And we've already talked about Latin America. Latin America, basically every country on the South American, in the South America was either couped or attempted coup. And you can see those numbers dwarf in comparison to Africa. It's just mind-boggling, the number, disproportionately Africa has been targeted. And the reason for that is the resources. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. This is what it looks like on the actual continent. And again, these are only successful ones. That's not to say that the countries down there, like that doesn't have a dot on them, didn't actually have a coup. It just wasn't their clinical definition of a successful coup. So basically every place in Africa.
It's a whole lot of dots.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead and go to the next one. Now this is really interesting, I think. Can you zoom in a little bit?
This one I can't.
Okay. All right. So hold on a second. Let me bring up my copy of that. All right. So the first line is Sudan. They had 6 successful and 18 total coup attempts. Burundi, they had 5 successful, 11 attempted. Burkina Faso, 9 successful coups with 10 attempted. Now, I need to put this in perspective. We're talking since 1950, okay? 1950, that's 70 years. So when you have 20 coups in 70 years, how in the hell could a country be successful? Ghana had 5 successful ones and 10 attempts. Sierra Leone, 5 attempted, 5 successful, 10 attempted. Guinea Basu, 4 successful, 9 attempted. Benin, BENIN, 6 successful, 8 attempted. Nigeria, 6 and 8. Mali, 5 and 8. Niger, 5 and 8, and on down. So you can see the only one on here that didn't have a successful one, Zambia had 3 attempts. Morocco had 2 attempts, and then on down. So we don't have any that didn't have any. And this, again, is very misleading because just look at Angola. Angola, for like 15 or 20 years, had the U.S. Shipping weapons, because we talked about this one, from Israel into South Africa and then into Angola, waging a civil war. So while it looks like they only had 1 and no success, they destroyed Angola. And they destroyed Angola because Angola is next to the Congo and has diamonds, uranium, and all of these other assets. So the entire time that they were creating this civil war and the unrest, using Gladio stationed terror cells along the border of the southern border of Angola with Israeli weapons, the CIA was in there attacking the only leading people, which is called the MPLA, that could successfully have led the country because everybody else was basically illiterate. So they were constantly attacking the country's ability to be a viable, successful country. Let's go to the next one.
Interesting on this too, on this chart before I go to the next one, Egypt and Rwanda, 4 for 4 and 2 for 2. They made sure they didn't fail in those.
Yeah. And of course, Egypt is critical because Egypt, for the preponderance of this time, was kind of the antithesis to Israel. They were, that's the 7-day war that we talked about with the USS Liberty and all of that. So Egypt was really the kind of counterweight on the African continent to Israel. And Israel, throughout the entire story of Israel's presence in Africa is crazy. And the best example of that is the diamonds. Israel has the monopoly on the diamonds and the diamond market, and they don't own a single diamond in Israel. It all comes from Africa. And so they have used the instability of the CIA, Mossad, MI6 in the continent of Africa to rape the resources of Africa and sell them and monopolize them.
All right,
So,
let me go to the next chart for you.
excuse me. Yeah, the next chart talks about the success rate and the decades in which it happened. And this is critical because these countries, for the most part, didn't have their independence until 1960. So you can see, because this is true of places like Congo and many of the others. We'll go through several of them. But it was not until 1959 and 1960, and some didn't get it. I made a couple of notes. Hold on. Some did not get their independence until the 1970s. So you can see that as soon as they were, quote unquote, given their independence, they immediately, they being the international syndicate, because let me just stop here for just a second. When you understand that the international syndicate's at the top of the pyramid, and they're the ones that direct the paramilitary coups, when they decide that they're going to coup a government, it is because that government is in opposition to them stealing their resources. And I don't mean like physically stealing. I mean like giving them, in the case of Iran, it was 14 cents of every dollar of profit on the oil. So it's basically stealing. And in some cases, they go in and they give the illegitimate president, you know, $30 million, and he gives them a 99-year concession on being able to steal the oil. And then the people get 14 cents, where the colonial power gets the 84 cents or the 86 cents. So that's what I mean by stealing. It's not like physically, although they do physically steal too. So they bribe these corrupt leaders to basically steal the people's wealth. And that's when you look at, like in the Congo situation, they got their independence in 1960, and immediately they overthrew the prime minister, got him fired, and boiled him in acid. Okay, so when you look at those numbers and you've got a 61% success rate of coups, if you're the CIA, you're thinking, you know, a pat on the back to you. And then you go on into the 70s, where more of the countries were gaining independence, and, you know, they just coup after coup after coup after coup. And then lastly, if you put that last chart up, these are all the people. Most of these people were murdered.
Jesus.
Most of these people were murdered by the CIA.
That is a lot of people. That is what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Now,
5,
not all of them were murdered. Some
7.
of them, they overthrew them while they were out of the country, and they sought refuge in other countries. But a large portion of them were murdered.
That's 7 rows of 15, though. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of
people.
A lot of Black people.
Absolutely.
And this is from the government, who tells you repeatedly that they're all about empowering Black people. That same government murdered these people. And in murdering these people, they sentenced millions of their citizens to a life of poverty, rape, torture, kidnapping, and basically living, if they even have protection, in a tin covered hut, in working conditions that the even long after they were given their independence, these plantations, like in the case of Liberia, these plantations that were set up, like in the case of rubber with Goodyear, where they would cut off the people's hands when they didn't make the quotas. They did the same thing with the uranium in the Congo. Yeah. So,
and that's what blows my mind. I mean, just in the stuff that you've taught us, the stuff that I've seen from documentaries that I've been watching and studying, the amount of resources located throughout Africa, like all the countries
of dollars.
You're talking about, this place could be a paradise with the amount of income that
dollars, and the constant chaos that they have been subject to, so that they cannot take advantage of their own resources. It's just dumbfounding. And then assholes like Eric Prince gets on a podcast and criticizes the Black leaders that are in that picture, because they were willing to die for their citizens and stand up to the West and their theft of their wealth. That, it's just dumbfounding to me. So, having said that, I wanted to talk. I spent a little bit of time on in the spaces about Liberia, because Liberia is one of the most interesting countries. And can you go back to the chart and find Liberia where it has the number of coups for Liberia?
1 for 3.
It's what?
1 successful, 3 attempts.
Okay. So it's actually very interesting. And it's actually a little more now because they had like 2 in 2022. But Liberia is one of the most interesting countries that I've come across in studying all of this stuff. I want to get it pulled up here. So just give me just a second. Because Liberia was let me make sure I got this right. Hold on just a second.
And I have that other map. If you ever want me to bring it up, just let me know.
Okay. Let's see. Liberia. Yeah, let's go ahead and throw that up because I think it puts it into context, what we're going to say. This is a 1900 map of Africa. And the reason why this is important is if you look at what basically all of what you see there where it says United States of Africa, that basically was all French colonies. And Algeria was a French colony. You had Angola, which was a Portugal colony. And what is the other one? The Commonwealth. Yeah, you had Rhodesia, and at one point, South Africa was a British one. And so in looking at, and Congo was Belgium. So basically, they had kind of staked out territory of Algeria was French. And so at some point, basically all of Africa was owned by somebody else or invaded by someone else and captured, if you will. And in doing so, there's a couple phenomenons that happened. More so with the French, but certainly happened with other ones. They tended to take a minority tribe and put them in charge. So now you can imagine if you've lived in a place for 1,000 years and let's just take 100 square mile and there's 2 tribes that occupy that 100 square miles. One of them makes up 75% of the people and the other one makes up, let's just say it's A and B. So A is 75% and B is 25%. Well, if they owned oil or diamonds or uranium or whatever, when the French came in and conquered that territory, because they're all chaos agents, they took the tribe that the B tribe, that's 25% of the population, and they subjugated the A tribe of 75% to the B tribe. So now the B tribe is going to be the president, the figurehead, the governor, whatever you want to call them. Their quote unquote House of Representatives or the parliament is going to be all of the B. Now, the B has been beat up for the last 1,000 years, right? They've been given scraps from the A tribe. All of the shitty land, all of the shitty everything. So they're now in charge for the first time in the 1,000 years. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to beat the shit out of the A tribe, right? At every opportunity. They're going to kill them. They're going to judge against them if they come into a court process, whatever. They're going to get the screws put to them. And that's what the French did on purpose, because the French, as long as those 2 people were beating the shit out of each other and killing each other, the French leaving every day with the oil and the diamonds and the uranium, no one paid attention to that because they're all trying to survive from getting the shit beat out of them, right?
Correct.
So then in 1960, the French leave. Well, they kind of left. A lot of them tried to leave their military there to perpetuate this dominance kind of thing going on. But they were no longer there in the numbers and the election because, I mean, it's a number of things, right? There's 75% of the A tribe. So they're going to get elected in this quote unquote election. So the A tribe now is back in charge after the last 40 years of being a colony or 75 years of being a French colony. Well, what do you think they're going to do to the B team? They're going to beat the shit out of them.
Jesus.
And when they did that, that's what we got told was a genocide. And oh my God, the A team is so bad because they're genociding the B team. Well, guess what? The B team genocided them at your insistence. So you could steal all of their shit. So then you got the Arab princes of the world going, yeah, that's a bunch of dysfunctional shit. Well, no kidding. You did it. You set the entire thing up. So now we're sitting over here in America going, why are they killing all of those people? We've heard about it in Rwanda. We heard it about in Somalia. Well, now you know why they're doing it. Because they're getting retribution back from having the large majority of the A team being genocided by the B team, who are the minorities. So you've heard about the Hutus and the Tutsis. That's exactly what that is. The Tutsis were the minority that were put in charge of the Hutus, which every place they're at, they are the majority, right? So you have this elite Hutus that were in bed with the West and were elevated into the positions of authority as the B team, genocided the Hutus, and then magically the colonial powers are gone and the Hutus are coming after them. And they're going to hit them hard. And rightfully so. The son of a bitches were killing them. So that's what is left over in Africa. That is what we see in Africa. We see this, and by the way, as long as the Hutus are now killing all of the Tutsis, they use this for milking all of our U.S. aid money to go over there for the CIA. And then at the same time, they're still stealing all of the resources because of all the turmoil. Now, on top of all of that, we have to add something else.
Jesus, as if that wasn't enough.
Well, now we've got the U.S. injecting itself, right? So if you go to some of these countries in Africa, you'll notice a new phenomenon, and that's the United States spending billions of dollars creating bases in Africa. So I came across a statistic, and I don't know if I'll be able to find it.
To Djibouti, they sent my unit over there.
Yeah. So there's a statistic that says since, it'll be on my X thing because it was in the spaces today. Let me see if I can find where I sent it to Bridget. There's a statistic that says since AFRICOM got created, there has been like it was like 75,000% increase in killings, in chaos, in coups, everything, since AFRICOM got created. And it was created like in 2005, 2006 timeframe. So in the near recent past, there has been an explosion of chaos in Africa. And as a result of that, let me just go back. The reason for that is once they had, because for those of you who don't know, if you look at the map of Africa, the U.S. divides all of the world up into combatant commanders. They had taken the Horn of Africa, which is the eastern part, the Somalia, Ethiopia area, Kenya. They gave the Horn of Africa to CENTCOM. The rest of the continent of Africa belonged to EUCOM until around 2005 when they set up AFRICOM. Then all of Africa is now part of AFRICOM, and CENTCOM starts on the other side of the Suez Canal. So that matters from a perspective of the unity of effort on how you're going to approach that continent of Africa. And what they had decided to do once AFRICOM got established is they were going to share ISIS. So ISIS got created as basically what they used to use, the communists, the threat of the Gladio operators, like in the stay behind units in Turkey and stuff like that. ISIS became a mobile Gladio capability where they can deploy it on demand to anywhere. And they used Afghanistan as the incubator by creating the Mujahideen and the fighters there and all of the training bases, both in Afghanistan and Pakistan. They had basically like an incubator. They were giving birth to quote unquote radical Islamist terrorists in the form of ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And then they would export that, just like we exported the Cuban exiles from Miami all over South America. So ISIS got exported into Africa right around the exact same time that they stood up AFRICOM, almost like that's the reason why they stood up AFRICOM, so they could coordinate the infiltration of ISIS into Africa to destabilize it. And in doing that, you had this crazy explosion of terror attacks all over Africa. And they used those terror attacks initially as justification to build drone bases. There's a shitload of drone bases all over Africa. Niger has the one that cost $100 million. So when you go to look at where the drone bases are all over Africa, what you quickly realize is initially the African countries that were getting terror attacked by ISIS, not knowing it was the CIA, they said, sure, if you want unarmed drones to be able to give us intel on these attacks, we would love to have your base here. Well, then they're going to up the ante at places like Niger, and you have the incident, which I don't know if you've ever read about, the Tongo ambush. Have you read about that?
Is that the setup one where they're asking for reinforcements? They never sent them.
It's the one where they originally, yes, to answer that, they sent the team out, and they were supposed to be meeting another team, and that team didn't show up. And instead, and that captain said, I want to return to base because I can't do it without the other team. And his lieutenant colonel commander said, no, you have to go on.
You told me about that one. I do remember.
Yeah. Okay. And then the colonel, when the captain because you get that first request of, hey, you're full of shit, Lieutenant Colonel. He went up to the colonel and the colonel said, no, you have to go. So you have a colonel and a lieutenant colonel telling this captain that he has to go into a completely unknown, unpracticed scenario with no capability, no protection, no overhead, no nothing. Now, keep in mind, there's a fucking drone base there that's not armed already. There's multiple ones. So they have no overhead eyes on target, nothing. So they get ambushed. 4 of them get killed. The Army afterwards, well, the joint AFRICOM, after this all happens, they fire the SOC commander, which is a 2-star Air Force guy who had nothing to do with it at all. Was he ultimately responsible for the SOC? Yes, but he had no hands-on to this incident whatsoever, didn't even know about it until after it was already done and these 4 people are dead. The colonel and lieutenant colonel knew all about it. They tried to promote the lieutenant colonel to colonel, and they tried to promote the colonel to 1-star. Because no matter what they did as far as the investigation, the entire thing was covered up. Except the Air Force 2-star got fired, who had nothing to do with it. They tried to get all of the junior ranking officers fired, not the lieutenant colonel and not the colonel, who were 100% responsible for it. And do you know what happened immediately after all of this? The United States got Niger's concurrence to arm every fucking drone there. So now they offered onto this altar of Satan the sacrifice of 4 special forces so they could get missiles on to drones in Africa. And let me tell you why this is so important. Because when you have missiles on drones in Africa, you can take out anybody you want, anytime you want, and there is zero accountability. Zero. Because in most cases, in the continent of Africa, you don't even know there's a dead body laying there. And I want everybody to understand the magnitude of what I just said. Because I have found incident after incident where there are, just like what we discovered over in the Horn of Africa, when we were researching the WWF, the World Wildlife Foundation, where they set up national parks and they do it on the border. If you go to the border of, let me get back to my map. If you go to the border of, hold on. Togo and Benin, Benin, up in the corner where, I'm going to try to get the more recent one. Hold on just a second.
You said Togo and Benin?
Yeah. What's the one right up to the north of that one? What's the country that goes to the north of that?
This is in Niger?
Niger. Okay.
You have Algeria, that's northwest. Libya, that's northeast. Chad, that's east.
Okay, hold on.
Have Bamako. Oh, I'm sorry, Mali, that's west.
Yeah, so just north, I couldn't remember if it was Niger or not. Just north of Togo and all of those, there is like a tri-country area. And hold on, I'm getting there. And what you find is there is a national park that the WWF and UNESCO got them to set up. And in that national park area, you have people getting killed. There, As a matter of fact, they're getting killed with landmines. Now, you explain to me why in a national park you would have landmines. Do we have landmines in our national park?
We do not.
Burkina Faso, that's where it's at. It's up there in that tri-state area. So they set up these national parks, and inside of these national parks are Operation Gladio terrorist training camps. And they put those mines in order to make sure no one gets inside of those national parks without them knowing about it, because it kills you. And they do that in order to, and so just think about that for just a second. If you have drones and you, the US, control all of the drones and the airspace over these countries, you know everybody coming and going, you control everything. You can take down aircraft when you want to get rid of a president. You control everything.
And no accountability.
And zero accountability. Because, as in the case with Liberia, I want to say it's Liberia, one of the countries there, they're all starting to merge in my head. One of the former prime ministers had been assassinated, not while he was in office, but they were afraid he was going to come back. And his plane, he died in a plane crash with his wife, and they couldn't find one of the engines. Yeah. So, we don't know how he died, other than his plane crashed. And, it's not uncommon to lose an entire engine off an aircraft, right?
Yeah, it's not
So
like
that
got hit by a missile or something, went boom.
Exactly. That's my point. And so we already know that they took down Dag Hammarskjölds's aircraft on its way to the Congo when he was UN Secretary General, when they were just after they had murdered Lumumba, and he was trying to get a peace deal to stop them from fighting. And so when that happens, you can't do it without having arms on the drones, right? So it was imperative that they do something in order to now justify arming the drones once you got the foot in the door. And they are willing to sacrifice our precious men and women in the military in order to achieve those ends. So I want people to understand the magnitude. We could do a show kind of just geographically looking at, like we just did, Niger Air Base 201. And we lost everything there.
Again.
We got kicked out, and who's occupying our $100 million base now is Russia.
It's almost like we're arming the military. When you look at the equipment from Afghanistan, now you look at the drones, it's just like, just call it what it is, intentional sabotage.
Well, it is creating chaos in all of these locations so they can continue to rip off all of their resources. So destabilization is, so for us, you and I, our brains work on eliminating chaos. Our brains work on solving problems. They don't want the problem solved. They want the problem. And that was the hardest thing to get my head wrapped around. They actually create the problem for the problem's purpose. Because as long as that problem is there and the chaos is there, they can continue to work underneath the radar, stealing all of the resources. As soon as you solve the problem, then you can see them stealing. So the chaos is the goal. And for you and I, who try to minimize chaos, it every time we would look at this, it's like, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense until you realize what their goal is.
Which is this complete destruction of the area.
So that they can steal all of the resources. And there's
Because heaven forbid that these countries are able to establish a normal government that can facilitate the wants of the people, which then can prevent other countries from coming in, and they can actually develop into countries that are rich and flourish and use these resources for themselves. We can't have that. We need chaos.
And you know what I would like, just one time? I would like for 5 years, let's put Eric Prince's assertion to the test. Let's, for 5 years, get all of the shit called the CIA and the US ambassadors out of Africa. Leave the entire continent. Let's let them be successful. And then if they fuck it all up, you are right. We've
But
lost.
they know that ain't gonna happen. And not here's
exactly right.
Here's the other thing. Not only are these countries going to flourish, immigration worldwide is going to dramatically plummet. And they rely on this illegal immigration for other funding and money laundering schemes
Human
that they do.
trafficking. Yes.
100%.
Yeah. Because if you don't have that, then you're missing that entire thing. And I think that's the piece that most people miss, is all of this chaos generates refugees. And we have talked about the 3 spokes. Human trafficking is one of those spokes. You don't have orphans. You don't have displaced people that are unaccountable in refugee camps if you are not creating this chaos.
And what people don't realize too, when you see immigration, as heartbroken as you might be, using our southern border, for example, those aren't the worst of the worst in these countries. And I'm not talking about the criminal ones that are aided in their choice to come here, but I'm talking about the ones that are either, have the intelligence or have the means to leave these countries, are the same people that if they would have remained in the country, that's who the country is dependent on. Those are going to be the kind of people that take over the roles that need to be taken to make the country successful.
Correct. And the talent robbing of that system is what ultimately destroys. And let me also say this. The educational programs, instead of creating educational programs in these countries and allowing them, sending sabbatical professors over to teach at universities in their countries, where they can grow their own educational systems, which is what you would do if you actually cared about the country and its future. Another way that you can tell that they don't actually care about their future or the country at all is they bring people to the United States to educate them and to London. And do you know why that is? So the CIA can groom them for them to go back and be spies. Those are the people in every one of these cases that I went through, every single one of them that was even the guy that in Niger that just couped the government recently, all educated in the West. They went to U.S. military schools. They went to U.S. and Western universities. And
so they come with all the built-in networking already.
Yes. So while they're here on those scholarships or project funded by USAID or whatever, they're grooming them. They're grooming them to go back and be agents inside of that, chaos agents inside of those countries. That's the whole purpose of those programs.
I put a comment up on the screen. I don't know if you can see it, but a Coast Gal, just brilliant comment. It is what it is. Chaos cover for massive theft.
That's exactly what it is. But if you go like this one, that Mauritania, Mauritania, if you go back and you look at that country, they had a coup attempt in 1987. They had a coup attempt in 2001, a coup attempt in 2003. They had a coup in 2005, and then they had in 2008, the president was overthrown by the military. And again, that's one of many. You have Sierra Leone. They had a coup recently in 2023 attempt. They had a civil war that lasted from 1991 to 2002. So it's not even the coups that completely tell the story. Liberia, 1985 coup attempt, 1980, they actually had a coup where their president was assassinated. 1989, a coup. 1990, Ivory Coast had a civil war in 2002. Then they had another civil war in 2010. They had a coup in 1999. Guinea had a coup in 2024, 2021, 2010, 2008, 1984. Guinea Bissau, former Portuguese. They fought a war of independence from 1963 to 1974 just for their own freedom. They didn't actually get their freedom until 1974, and the only reason they got it then is because Portugal's fascist dictator was overturned in a revolution in Portugal, and the new government gave them their freedom. They had a coup in 1980 and then another coup attempt in 2022. Let's see. I did want to talk just a few minutes about this Liberia. Let me get back there. So, hold on just a second.
Yeah, I was just bringing up some maps just to put in perspective while you're reading that off so people could see them.
Yeah. So Liberia is the craziest story I've ever read about the history of a country. And most people don't know this history. Did you know that in the 1800s, like in 1822, that the United States created a colony in Africa?
I did not know that.
Okay. There was an entity called the American Colonization Society. They decided that they were going to go to Africa and steal land in order to repatriate free blacks from America back to Africa. Now, I don't know about you, but I think stealing people's land's probably not the best way to repatriate Africans that want to go back to Africa that were brought involuntarily to the United States and then subsequently freed. It's just me, but I don't think that's the right way to do it. But that is what we did. So we go over there and we colonize an entity, and we end up calling it the Republic of Liberia. Now, the people obviously that we put on a boat and took back to Africa were black. And these blacks were then put in charge of the US colony called Liberia. And would you find it strange that the blacks that went to Liberia after having been freed in the United States created slaves.
Jeez. I
They
wonder what the reason was.
they did. The reason was this group of people that had spent time in America felt that they were better than their African counterparts. They did exactly what was done to them. And they were called inside of Liberia Americo-Liberians. Now, if you know anything about the caste system in India, they created a caste system in Liberia. There were the Americo-Liberians and then indigenous Liberians. And the indigenous Liberians were basically nobody. They couldn't vote. They had no voting rights at all in their own country. The Americo-Liberians, if they owned land, could vote, and they were the only ones allowed to vote in Liberia. So they got to do whatever they wanted, and the indigenous Liberians didn't get squat. So this went on for a very long time, and like a serious long time. And of course, the U.S. corporations, like Goodyear, Goodrich, one of the two. Hold on a second. They created rubber plantations over there, like massive. And what's even more interesting is the architecture over there. These landed Americo-Liberians created their own Southern style plantation homes. They basically recreated the South in Liberia. It's crazy. If you look at the pictures, they actually have the big front porch plantation houses that they built over there.
As well. The other thing I was reading while you're going through that is this says Liberia was a founding member of the League of Nations, the United Nations, and the Organization of African Unity.
Yeah, because they were basically like suck-ups to the U.S. because they got a lot of prestige for being like a colony, not like, they were a colony for a very long time, of the United States. I mean, it was a big deal. So what happens, though, is when they finally get an elected leader that isn't all that friendly to the United States. He's not, he doesn't want to be basically thought of as a colony anymore. They want their independence. And let's see, when we get to, his name is William Tubman. And when we get, he more was into the Pan-African, hey, let's all of the African people get together and do African kind of things. Well, there's a guy that in 1980, an enlisted Master Sergeant Samuel Doe of a minority ethnic group that kills the president, William Tolbert. And basically, he ends up taking Tolbert's brother out on a beach and assassinates him too. I mean, it's a very bloody. And then you have another guy that comes in by the name of Charles Taylor. He's going to basically overthrow Doe's government. And while all of this turmoil is going on, you've got Burkina Faso. They're going through their own coups over there.
Can
Like,
Here's something interesting in William Tubman's Wikipedia has him listed as a Freemason as well. He was a Freemason and belonged to the lodges of Prince Hall Freemasonry, is what they have it on here listed.
yeah. So basically, when you get, not that you would find it in general searching, but when you get down to it, when you start looking into the actual coup of him, he was like on the 6th or 7th floor of a ginormous building. That's where his living quarters was. There's no way that this enlisted guy got through all of his security all the way up to the top floor, assassinated him, blah, blah, blah. So the more research you do, the more you find out that the ambassador, the CIA station chief, and several CIA people were in the country at the time that all of this happened. They were part of the overthrow because this guy had began conversations with the USSR and with some of the other unapproved people that we have found out are kind of like the hot buttons that you're not allowed to do. Yeah, he did all of them. And him trying to work with Omar Gaddafi and coming up with the African Union and the African Congress and all of that other stuff kind of and he was very vocal about it too. He was very poking them in the chest. So yeah, they got his number, they assassinated him. And they still have never done a real investigation into his assassination, but his family knows it was the CIA.
I was going to say, of course not. There's so much Gladio when you read through this dude's page. A U.S. Peace Corps program began in Liberia, which would run until 1990 when Civil War happened to break out.
Yeah. And U.S. Peace Corps is just another CIA front.
Mm-hmm. It's
crazy, isn't it?
It is.
And what's really amazing about this is just because of its unique beginnings, the fact that most people don't even know we had a colony in Africa, because I didn't.
I was tripping out when I looked at their flag. I mean, I've always heard of the country, but I look at their flag and I was like, well, damn, doesn't that look mighty damn familiar?
Right?
Right there.
Yeah, it's our colony. And the fact that just everything about it's so weird. You're a slave. You are going to get on a ship and go back to Africa to implement slavery. It's just the most bizarre story of mankind and what we do to each other.
And they probably human trafficked people from Liberia back to the States as new slaves and made money off of that.
Maybe. I don't know about that part, but I just think it's bizarre. I just think it's totally bizarre. But if you look at all of these, like Tanzania's the guy that stood up during COVID and mysteriously died. Every single time that you have one of these truly great leaders from Africa, he ends up dead well before his time for standing up to the West.
He embarrassed the hell out of them too.
Sure, he did.
It was a fruit and
like a tree.
Something, yeah.
Or was it a playground equipment and then a fruit tree or something like that he COVID tested positive?
I'm trying to remember, but he embarrassed them. I'm trying to see if I can find the article. Let's see.
But Tanzania was one of the kind of
Following controversial remarks by Tanzania's president, who urges country to stick to science and fight against COVID-19. And let me see if it shows what he tested, because I was like, bro, just trolled the World Health Organization on a legendary scale.
And so he has to die. And then you have the Eric Princes saying, yeah, there's no good leaders over there because you fucking kill them all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a CNN article, so it might not say it, but
Probably not.
And it sucks. It sucks that you had a man with that kind of courage to stand for his country, and not just stand for his country, to show how asinine these COVID tests were, and it cost him his life.
Yeah. But, the continent of Africa is filled with those stories. And I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to it. And I also want to bring their attention to what I think one of the factors is in doing that in modern day, because if you look at the amount of coups that are happening in Africa right now in the last 24 months, it's off the chart. And you can argue in some cases that it's off the charts on the good side, that they're throwing off the oppression and the Western influence. That cannot be said for every single one of them, but I did find evidence that that is happening throughout the continent of Africa right now. So that pretends good news for the African people if they can get their shit together and throw off the shackles once and for all of the colonialism minus the official label of colonialism, because that's basically what they've done. They, quote unquote, gave them their independence in the 1960s while turning right around in the 1960s and setting up organizations like the WWF that basically just maintained the colonialism in a different form.
Why do you think that unless this information is inaccurate, but it lists the only official U.S. base as being in Djibouti, Africa? Is there a strategic purpose to that? I mean, given its, super closeness to the Middle East and what's going on there, or why there of all places?
Well, hold on
And
just
let me bring it up so people can see what base I'm talking about too.
if you oh god,
Oh,
what's right across the water?
let me bring up the map to show everybody. Let me zoom in. You got Yemen and Saudi
And
Arabia
what's going on in Yemen?
fighting, a whole lot of fighting, a whole lot of attacks.
So now you know why we're in Djibouti. Plus, that was CENTCOM's country. And CENTCOM, because of its role in, 9/11 and the Iraq War and all of that other stuff, that was kind of the launching off point. I will tell you this. There was a narrative. I doubt the veracity of it at this point, but there was a narrative that went on for the 24 months leading up to 9/11 of the it wasn't phrased as terror, but the trafficking of things, whether it was drugs or weapons or whatever, in that area, whether it was Djibouti or Kenya or Somalia, the whole Horn of Africa. So, in many of the staff meetings, when they were talking about, okay, well, we're not actually going to be able to affect anything in Afghanistan, so we're going to have to actually go fight somewhere else to kind of draw them into an urban kind of warfare that we could actually defeat them. And eventually it was Iraq that was selected, and we kind of know why now. But at the time, the intel analysts at CENTCOM actually thought that they were being asked for input as to which country would be the best one to conduct that warfare in, as kind of like the magnet to draw them into those areas. And two of the three, one was Iraq, the other two was in the Horn of Africa. And as in leading up to that, the focus on Djibouti for its close proximity to Yemen, because you have to keep in mind that stretch of sea fare from the Mediterranean down is critical, because it's like the Panama Canal of the Middle East, right? So you have to ensure that you have the ability to defeat anything that comes from Yemen. And the problem that they have is Yemen is like the Syria or the Russia to them. They can't, no matter how hard they've tried, they can't get control of Yemen, just like Syria. They've tried and tried and tried to get rid of Assad. They can't. And that has been a tremendous problem for the syndicate by not being able to kowtow Yemen under their control. Because the British has been in there since like the 1600s. They had Aden. Remember, that's where they stole all the coffee trees from. So they have been there, and they've never been able to control Yemen ever. It's like Afghanistan. They've never been able to control it, no matter how hard they try. So the next best thing they could have done was put that base across the waterway, so they could try to at least counter affect any aggression that's coming off the coast of Yemen.
Strategic.
But now, with drone capability, and them dotting the whole landscape of Africa with these smaller drone bases. And like I said, they go in and go, oh, no, it's just for peaceful observation, until they kill a couple of Americans, and then go, oh, no, we got to arm them.
Golly. It's just, we're just a few months away from November when all this is just going to pop off. It's just all going to pop off.
It is going to be very interesting between now and then. Because the closer we get to November, the more desperate they're going to be.
Because we have one full fleet in the Mediterranean, right?
Yeah, well, and they sent more in addition to that, but yes.
And they'll get there just around, probably just before election, like a month and a half before election time, if they don't get diverted or anything like that.
My concern with them is the false flags that happen. Because generally our people are placed in particular places to be able to be sacrificed. And
That's what worries me. That worries me a lot, because I have a family member that is at a strategic location that's out there right now, and I'll tell you where, offline, but it is, if I wanted to do a false flag that was going to get American support behind it along with others, that is what I would target. And so it's a huge concern for me.
And that's what they do. I mean, I wish I didn't know that now. But that is exactly what they do. Repeatedly, like every single time. But I'm more concerned about their desperateness in getting rid of Trump, in what we have seen with the Gladio. I mean, for much less, like talking to the USSR, they've assassinated presidents. The turmoil that they put Chile through, the turmoil that they put, the Congo through, in their attempts, and what they did to Charles de Gaulle. I mean, they tried to kill him over 20 times. They just are desperate for that control, and they can't control Trump. And the closer we get to the election, the more desperate they're going to get. So
I agree with that 100%. Well, we can go to some comments before we wrap this up from the last show.
Okay.
See what we find on there. Let's see. This is real time, so we'll see it when you guys see it. So let's see. All right, here we go. Oh, since we're in the comment section, I want to address something. I feel like I did, but I'm not sure. You guys, if you see an account that replies to you guys in this comment and it's from a Gmail, like AlphaWarrior Show or that at Gmail, it is a fraud account. I do not use Gmail when it comes to the show. My email it reads exactly like this, you guys. The AlphaWarrior Show at Proton or alpha at the alphawarriorshow.tv. Outside of those two email communications, it is not me. This also goes for any other form of social media. Anybody reaches out to you saying, hey, can you help me with this or finances for this, or you want to invest in this? That shit ain't me. So don't fall for it. There's a lot of scams on there. They've been making almost like, I mean, they're good, Colonel. Like this one account that was made on X, it took me a minute before I figured out. I was like, "What's the difference?" It looks like my account, and I realized that the L was actually an I.
An I. They do that for Colonel every single time. They had done that to me like 15 times on True Social.
Yeah, it is. It's dangerous because they take advantage of people. So here we go, Queenie Bell. This is last week's show, you guys. We love Alpha Warrior. God bless you and your family, and we thank you most heartedly for your years of service. Thank you. D Holler 3353. The Colonel is a badass. I concur. Let's scroll on up, see where we land. CM 547. Alpha. You do know that Ghislaine Maxwell's father owned Macmillan Publishing, which we all should know. They printed our textbooks. That's how they changed history. Get out of here.
Yeah, and he owned Pergamon Press too, which basically produced all of the medical journals.
That is, CM, you just set me down right. You just gave me damn work that I'm doing this weekend. Oh my gosh, I want to do an article on that. Thank you for that, CM 547.
Well, let me also tell you that we ran across Robert Maxwell. One of the craziest things for me in researching him was that he was killed off the coast of Canary Islands. His yacht was docked near the Canary Islands. Well, Canary Islands, I learned early on in Operation Gladio, it was where they did all of their water training. So I don't know, somebody on a boat mysteriously goes missing. Drowns, falls overboard right around the place where they're doing all of the water training for Operation Gladio. Probably just a coincidence, I'm sure.
We're the good guys doing counter operations to take these people out. Let's see. Here we go. Elephant in the corner. You know what comes into some of your guys' heads when you develop these pseudonames? I wish I knew. Why 107 on Nino talking about how the military came to the side of the people regarding Maduro? That is a good question.
Say that again.
It says, why 107 on Nino talking about how the military came to the side of the people regarding Maduro?
Yeah, I don't know that the military did. There's a lot of misinformation about Venezuela out there right now. If you look at the most recent televised interview with Maduro, all of his senior military officers are in the room with him. Are there some that dress up in military uniforms that may have been in the military that were against him? Absolutely.
Tell you what, everything I've heard that man say so far that's come across my feed, sure as hell don't disagree with the guy.
Not at all. Yeah. So again, there's a lot of misinformation, just like what's going on in Bangladesh right now. What is going on in Bangladesh, again, another one of those ignorant moments. Bangladesh used to be called East Pakistan. And Pakistan is a made-up country that is nothing but an invention of MI6 and CIA, 100%. Lock, stock, and barrel. And it is the infiltrators from Pakistan in Bangladesh right now that is doing all of the murdering of the Hindus and stringing them up and doing all of that other stuff and ran the prime minister out of the country. Those are all people from Pakistan. They are not native to Bangladesh. And they are, Bangladesh is another very rich in resource country with vital resources, and they are trying to destroy it. And they're trying to blame the Hindus. And in some cases, we're actually dressing up like them.
And speaking of Pakistan, and somebody can go in the live chat or the comments find it. I think we gave them, was it like 1.8 million or 18 million dollars for transgender studies?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, sure, that's what that money was for. Just so you guys know, I did an interview with Mr. Juan O'Saven this weekend. It'll air next week. It's a long one. I think you guys will find it interesting. Let's fly on up here. TPH-14, Alpha and Colonel. I think Blinken's hands are all over the coup in Venezuela, since it was quite ironic that he came out and said he was behind the people of Venezuela as the voters were cheated on the election. The very person who got 51 IAs to sign the document stating the laptop was a Russia plant. I wouldn't disagree if Blinken was involved in a coup.
You know what I think is most interesting about Venezuela is the same people that are telling us that we had the most secure election in 2020 in our lifetimes are also telling us that same system in Venezuela was able to be rigged.
Same damn system.
Same damn system.
Same damn system. Here, so all right. I need to have a tinfoil hat. You know, I'm gonna get my old hat.
Safe.
I'm gonna wrap the old one like this in tinfoil. I'm gonna keep it here, right? Because I still don't want to get rid of it. It just doesn't feel holy if I do that. So I'm gonna put on my tinfoil hat right now. Why Venezuela out of all the countries in South America? There's several that they could have manipulated, but it's almost like if you dig far enough back in Venezuela, is it gonna not take us to Nazis?
Well, I think it takes us to rigged elections.
No, I agree completely with that. 100%.
So you either you can't have it both ways. Either that system is able to be rigged and they rigged it in Venezuela, or it can't be rigged and they didn't.
And there is somebody who let me bring this guy up on the screen right here. You guys might know him on X as Whiskey Tango Foxtrot or Whiskey. And he knows I'm always busting his chomps. Whiskey, I'm glad you're in the chat. I know you see this. Whiskey's an agent. I know he is. He swears up and down he's not, but I know Whiskey. He always sends me links and I don't click on them. And he knows why. But I love him. If he is an agent, he's definitely my favorite. So let's get back to some of these comments so we can wrap this up. Foxhole Rasta, to your question at the end, Colonel, that big aluminum bump on the AR receiver bounces brass forward and to the right, depending on where it hits, can vary.
Oh, for it being over the ridge line.
Yeah. But I agree with you that it's still it's not gonna bounce way out where they saw it. And I did go and see that video where some of them were like zoomed in. Not really a damn chance. Not a damn chance.
And again, 10 feet for the gun. Oh, and my favorite now is I have a video of one guy belly crawling up to the ridge line that we're told then raised up and was able to get, several shots off, which we think is absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, there's a video of a guy running across the roof this way. How's that happen? How do you have one guy laying on the roof, belly crawling up, while at the same time, another guy's running across here and there's only one guy?
Brian showed me that video, the guy running, then he dips down. And
so was he running across or was he belly crawling? Running across or belly crawling? Either way, both of them had their heads way up there where they could have got popped. And nobody got popped.
It depends if we're seeing the what do they call it, the extended cut, editor's cut, or not. Cool Want says, yes, Alpha have been wondering about the strategy of tension here. Yes, look at the Smack Dives Live Matter and Pantifa. However, now BLM is mad at Kimmelto. Glad you got me to say that. This is getting interesting. Plot twist incoming. Sure is. I still don't think Kamala's going to be the one that makes it to the ballot if there's an election. Congratulations, Colonel. Wishing your daughter and grandbaby a healthy delivery. Alpha and Colonel are a great team. Couldn't agree more. Let's fly up here and take a look. Janet Susan OD. This is exactly what they want. When the people are exhausted and overwhelmed in deep denial, they will come in and start to fix things. And you will see, and you will be so grateful that you will be in the new Nazi world order already, not even know it. You will ignore the trains and sing louder in church, as did the Germans. This is the playbook. Be aware of the deepest memes that may be stopping each and every one of us from bringing in new ideas, which is the only thing that can defeat that playbook. The new, the authentic, the spontaneous action in real time, not cyberspace, face to face. Well, I'll never disagree with face to face. And let's see, let's fly a little bit higher. And you guys went wild in the comments. I love it. SD Gardenier. I would like to see a show with the Colonel and Juan because he tells a very different story, particularly about Venezuela and Cuba. Blames it all on the Russians and the Chinese. I didn't believe it, having learned about Gladio. Now I listen to everything Juan says with a different ear. You want to say anything about that, Colonel? I could be politically correct here.
So I think that if you look at the overwhelming amount of evidence, you come across, and believe me, I mean, a year at this, I'm probably 55 books into this. There's one of two things about Cuba specifically. What we know for sure is the CIA trained Castro. We know for sure. We know that the CIA trained his brother. We know that the CIA trained Che Guevara. We know that they did that in worst case scenario, hedge betting, because they also installed Batista. So you can come away from all of what we know for a fact with two different outcomes, neither one of which has anything to do with China or the USSR. The CIA either was hedging their bet and equipped Castro in order to be able to use him and reinsert their drug operations there. And when he said no, they got pissed and spent the next 60 years trying to kill him. You can definitely make that argument. And probably for the first 8 months, that was kind of my going in position. Having zoomed out a little further, I could actually make the argument that all of the operational failures of the CIA to kill Castro were orchestrated as failures, and that having Castro sit on a little island off the coast of Florida as this threat allowed the CIA to use the threat of the spread of communism throughout the entire Central and South America as the reason why they went in there and installed all those dictators and orchestrated all of the Operation Condor, in that case, chaos, and stole all their resources. Because without the threat of communism in our hemisphere, they would not have been able to make that argument for as long, nor would it have been as valid, right? So I could argue either one of those positions very well. I don't think that there is a third option. I don't think that there, because again, we've established the fact that Lumumba was not a communist. Allende was not a communist. The Nicaraguan government was not a communist government. None of them were. We were lied to. We were lied to repeatedly. I don't think it's bad that someone who makes $87 a year wants a union and a little bit more pay from Chiquita Banana or United Fruit. I don't think that's a bad thing. And if you're going to tell me the president that wants that for his people out of United Fruit, or tell them to get the hell out and give the land back so they can all be wealthy coffee growers, which is what they were before the corrupt government sold off all of their land to the United States, farmland for an owner, I don't know. So when you look at things in its totality, I can't say for sure which of those two things it is, but I can unequivocally say that there was never any threat of the spread of communism in our hemisphere. That was made up bullshit.
Boom. There it is. See, you guys are so lucky. Get the Colonel to answer you guys directly. Hope you guys love it. Hope you guys are following her. Joe K89. I love this series. Alpha and Colonel are fantastic. God wins. God bless. And I saw a word in here that, of course, I got to read it. Robert the Marine. Fila, hell yeah. Get some, Devil Dog. Semper Fi. MF. Almost said it. God will punish our enemies. We will arrange the meetings. Nothing can stop what is coming. Give them one Devil Dog kill. And then we'll go with the last one. Unspoken 5781. Okay, so I'm grateful for this unveiling and crazy reality of unraveling the layers and layers of lies that our government thrives on. May I ask, Colonel, have you had any crazy pushback or strange happenings due to your truth-telling? I am beyond grateful for you both. Thank you, and you will be in my prayers.
I have lots of pushback, but I've not had any strange happenings. No.
And that's a good thing. So y'all just keep praying for this woman that she remains.
Okay. Can you see
protected.
this?
I can. Oh my gosh! Wow.
So I don't post any pictures, but I don't mind showing the audience. That's my husband, proud grandpa, and our baby.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
so happy.
He's a sweetheart.
So happy for your family. Especially for that amazing husband.
Yeah. He is amazing, that's for sure.
I mean, he lets literally tens of thousands of people, have his time. And the world's going to appreciate him just as much as they appreciate you. So make sure you let them know. Other than that, Colonel, you want to let everybody know?
But more importantly, he's actually going to let me get chickens too.
Oh,
we just finished the chicken coop today.
That's love. That's love. And for those of you that don't know, you do not need roosters to have chicken eggs. I know. It hit me like that too, you guys. Will say, what? Yes. You only need the rooster for a fertile chicken egg. Pretty cool. I'm proud of myself. I learned that, at the age of 44. That was like,
I'm not even
going to somebody. I want to know. Well, and you're going to be a perfect person for me to ask. I want to know how much time and work and cleanup goes into a chicken coop. And they're like, well, this. And I noticed they weren't mentioning the rooster. I said, well, do I get one rooster? Do I get two roosters? And they're like, well, no, you don't need the roosters. I was like, what are you talking about? How do you get an egg? And they were just busting up laughing. They thought I was playing. And I was just like, what do you mean? How do you get an egg? There's no man rooster, right? And they're just like, oh, no. And I know there's some people laughing in the chat, but I also know there's some quiet ones that are like, what? Are you being serious right now? And they're Googling it. They're just like, nah, you need a rooster. You're my peeps. Colonel, where can people find you?
at Colonel Towner on X, and True Social, I'm at Colonel Watkins, and then on Rumble. And I do have an announcement. Saturday at 7 p.m., I'm going to be interviewing Ivan Rakin on my podcast, The Colonel's Corner.
The Deep State Marauder.
Yes.
Woo!
Because I
Normally,
just think there's a logical tie-in with he's specifically trying to hold people accountable for the 4 coups against President Trump, which, if you understand Operation Gladio, definitely Operation Gladio, and our bigger Operation Gladio tie-in. Plus, I do want to ask him about his special forces background, because we've seen repeatedly special forces being used in Operation Gladio. So I'm excited.
I can't wait to watch. I can't wait to watch. And normally I would tell people, whew, you got a fireball coming your way. I feel like I got to warn Ivan, you got a fireball waiting for you, brother. I think the Deep State Marauder has met his match. That is going to be a fire episode, 7 p.m. Eastern time on the Colonel's channel. That link, you guys, is down in the description. Make sure you go hit subscribe to it, and then make sure you hit the little bell so you get the notifications. So with that, again, congratulations, Colonel. Thank you guys for spending the night with us. Next Wednesday, you guys, no Operation Gladio. Alpha's going to be in South Dakota. We got the 5th Great American Restoration Tour. So maybe Colonel can do a space that night, and I can jump in with you guys. Or maybe she could just rest and give Mr. Colonel some time. We'll see. But just so you guys know, following week we'll be right back at it. So you guys stick around, support the people, support this show. Semper Fi, God bless. First in, last out. I'll see you guys on the next one.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
If you stuck around, that means you're watching the ads. And if you did, you get to see what no one else gets to see. This is the badass hat, y'all. Told you I was going to bring it up one more time. Catch you guys next time. God bless.